In polite society, as we would say in England, you don't discuss these things. But I think we need to, because the version of the world being presented to us by the media and the governments are not accurate. They miss out some pretty key things that we probably ought to be discussing. And some things are more serious than this. And we're going to cover a range of different things as we go through. But this introduces us to one area where I think we can very clearly demonstrate that there is a cover-up in operation. That we are not having the full story told to us. And that does concern the whole mystery of UFOs. Now, the interest in UFOs that we know today, to some degrees, grew from an incident that most of you will have heard of, the Roswell incident. Back in 1947, in New Mexico in America, the local newspaper in the town of Roswell actually reported that they had captured a flying saucer. Now that was a big claim to make. And here we see an image, not a real image, but it's a mock-up to try to show what people reported of the classic flying saucer crashed into the desert and grey alien beings lying nearby. Now this story has been built upon over the years, and a lot of myth and a lot of sort of strange things have been added in to the point where it's hard to know what really happened. But something happened at Roswell. Now, realising that this wasn't a very good story to be going out to the world's press, the military base at Roswell the very next day had to call a press conference. And so here we see Major Jesse Marcel presenting to the world's press fragments of a weather balloon. And this is what they said: crash a balloon with weather devices on it, and that's all there was to it. But if you're wondering why Major Marcel is maybe looking a little bit embarrassed, that's because he knew the story was not true. Because Marcel maintained to his dying day that he did witness debris that could only have come, in his opinion, from something that was not of earthly origin. He described materials with strange properties, strange symbols that were nothing anybody had ever seen. And other people over the years have come forward and said, we saw the debris, we know that what crashed was not a weather balloon. Now over the years, realising that this story didn't entirely explain it, the cover story changed. And then a few years later, the military said, well, it wasn't a weather balloon, it was in fact a device from Project Mogul, which was designed to be able to detect sort of echoes from Soviet atomic tests. But then others said, well, hang on, that does not explain the alien bodies. Now here is an image from a film about Roswell. So it's not a real image. There are different, very controversial bits of film that some say are from Roswell, but we can't be sure. But this is what people reported. The classic grey alien being that many people have claimed that they have seen over the years. Now, what is interesting here is, of course, various hospital staff at the local Roswell hospital, where these bodies were taken after the alleged crash, they were told by Secret Service personnel very seriously that they were not on any account to ever speak of what they had seen. Which, of course, they completely ignored and told everybody. Which is how we know today that something strange occurred. But what is interesting is that, of course, none of the weather balloon stories explain this. So only about 15 years ago, the military in America released a new cover story that said that what the alien bodies were in fact crash test dummies. Now, you have to hope that a nurse can tell the difference between a crash test dummy and a body, but maybe not. Anyway, what this just shows is not that we're ever going to get to the full truth of what occurred here, but that something occurred that plainly somebody doesn't want us to talk about. Now, what many people believe is that the device was, or the craft if you like, was taken away to this place here. What we're seeing is an aerial shot of a place called Area 51, or Dreamland as it's sometimes known. It's a military base in the Nevada desert, and it does exist, and here it is. It is not officially discussed what goes on there. We have never had a proper explanation of what is done at Area 51, but there have been whistleblowers, people who have claimed to have inside information, have come forward and said they have the craft from Roswell and other alien encounters here in secret hangars under the ground, and that what they're doing is examining this technology and trying to reverse engineer it to create new military technology. And it is interesting that in earlier years, when you could get closer to Area 51 than you can today, people filmed objects flying over the runways, performing extraordinary aerial maneuvers in ways that conventional aircraft do not move. So it does seem they are testing something here, whether it's alien or not. So this is where it begins to get interesting, because they don't want us to know what goes on here, realizing that people were filming things with telescopes and binoculars. In recent years, they've pushed back the boundaries, so now you can't get anywhere near. That's as much as you will see. A dusty road going into the desert. If you try to go further, you will be arrested. Fair enough? It's a military base, so you can understand they wouldn't want anybody to go in, and yet there's never been a credible explanation for what really does go on there. So that's where the conspiracy theorists begin to wonder what is going on. And this word, this term, conspiracy theorist, in Britain especially, has now become used in the media as a term of abuse. It's used as an insult. If they call you a conspiracy theorist, what they're saying is you are a mad person. Even though, actually, the reason people theorize over conspiracies is because there's lots of potential conspiracies to theorize over. So actually, as a term, conspiracy theorist, it's purely an accurate explanation of what some people are trying to get to the bottom of. And as far as the UFO phenomenon goes, there is no question that there is something occurring. Too many people report seeing them, too many credible witnesses, ex-military, especially through Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project in America, but other people besides, ex-commercial airline pilots, current commercial airline pilots, all report seeing incredible craft of different shapes and sizes, but things that cannot be explained by conventional aircraft. And some of these people are surprisingly high up the chain of command. Just in recent years, Edgar Mitchell, an astronaut from Apollo 16, has said very publicly that he saw evidence of ETs during the NASA space program, which we'll talk about later. And that the government is covering up evidence of ETs. And so this is now coming up from so many different places that it's clear this needs further investigation. Now in America,